Hey, everybody, welcome back into the Lettermen Lounge at Roosters on Olentangy River Road. Snowy Columbus, Ohio. Can't stop us from getting in here for Monday to talk about Ohio State and college football as the offseason ramps up. That's Bobby Carpenter, Michael Bennett, and Justin Zwick. I am Austin Ward. Welcome back in. We've got no schlegs, but still got 3 baskets of mac and cheese.
Heck yeah.
I would show the mozzarella sticks, but
they're basically gone.
A couple slices of pizza.
I got here late and the stuff was already
I worked quick. I ate before I even talked to these two, so
that's key.
I worked.
I think, and Bobby had a salad, or is it gone?
No, salad's on its way. Salad's on its way. I would like to eat some of these mac and cheese bites. I'm on a little fast right now. It's going to be the Super Bowl. It's the day we're off, so I'm going to probably get Roosters for catering then.
Ooh, that's smart.
Go strong.
Just a bucket of mac and cheese bites.
I can't wrap my mind around that. How does that? Why would you do that to yourself?
Listen, you give up something you love for something you love even more, Austin. We're going to talk about dedication, discipline, things like that.
Yeah.
Drive, the 3 Ds.
The 3 Ds.
There you go.
Dip, dodge.
That's
the problem. Most of us like the food more than the way we look. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
I'm about to say.
Everybody's got to
see what I do.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it's normally this would be a much busier week. We'd be talking about National Signing Day on Wednesday. Not a lot for Ohio State to do, but we can get into that. You guys can tell some stories. Ohio State getting ready. Off-season workouts started today. The early enrollees got out of their quarantine so they can get back into the Woody. Testing and get in there with Mickey Marotti. And then those former Buckeyes went down to the Senior Bowl. There are 4 of them that played in that game on Saturday as the draft talk heats up as well. So still plenty for us to talk about with these Buckeyes, starting with February 1, Mickey Marotti getting his hands on these guys. What for these 15 early enrollees, which is, again, why there's not a lot to talk about for Wednesday, as everybody is signed and most of them are here. What are they about to get into over there?
They're going to get, number one, it's going to be a culture shock from just life and how it operates. You don't go into high school, you go work out after school, hang out with your buddies, do whatever. And especially these guys, they've been like at home, probably doing hybrid, going to school like every other day. You're going to be out of bed every day at 5 o'clock. You're going to be, probably 4:45. You're going to have food in your beak at 5:30. You're going to be lifting weights at 6:30, whatever it is. Then they're going to have more stuff for you right afterwards, ready to rock. You're going to be going to class, study table, whatever it is. Even if it's virtual, they may make them do virtual kind of, in a socially distanced way in the Woody, because you're not going to find a building with more square footage, I don't think, and fewer people in it. Like, that's the other thing. It's a lot of opportunities there to get things done. So
only a few thumbprints getting in your door.
Only a few thumbprints, exactly, especially right now. So that's number one. And then obviously the workout and how tough it's going to be, the grind that they'll be having to go through is going to be incredibly difficult. But if you look, it's very important because not many freshmen contributed this year. They got a late start. They didn't have spring ball. They didn't have that time to develop their body. So, Mick's going to be able to take this time and take this runway and hopefully get some of these guys to fill in some of these big voids I think that we need to see.
I first think it's interesting how many guys are early enrollees nowadays. I don't know when that shift happened, but, it wasn't so long ago that it would be 2 or 3 guys who would enroll early and they would get that culture shock. But now we got our whole signing class.
Somebody mentioned that to me the other day, Michael, that the 2014 class, I believe, the year you guys won the national title, you had 2 early enrollees. So they would, on National Signing Day, the only guys we could talk to would be those early enrollees that were there. So it was Raekwon or maybe is that right? Yeah, Raekwon McMillan and Johnny Dixon, and that was it. It was 2 guys for that class.
Yeah, and I understand it because I think this is how it is just across the country now, because of how competitive it is. When I was coming up, the guys that enrolled early, they did that extra 6 months to get your body right with a college strength coach is actually a lot bigger than I would have expected. And so what these guys are walking into, exactly what Bobby laid it out perfectly. I mean, there's no way to prepare really for the rigors of college football coming from high school football. I mean, the time commitment, the workout intensity, and then what is expected of you surrounding football is just entirely different. So these young guys, generally, if you enroll early, either you've had a good mentor in your ear that says, hey, this will be beneficial to you, or you're just, more committed to the football aspect, whatever it is. But they're going to get hit with a schedule, a strict schedule, going to get hit with an early schedule. And then these workouts, for the first week or something, they might come in bouncing around. But you get under that Mickey Marotti wing for a little while, and then you also have your school responsibilities. It's a culture shock. It'll take a little while to adjust to, but enrolling early gives you that grace period. And you get to come in in the winter when they're beating the crap out of you. And
that's what you want, an extra, 6 a.m. workouts.
That's what, when you make the decision to graduate early, you do think that's what I want. I want to be in there, and then you get there and you're like, maybe I should have went to senior prom and kind of enjoyed my last few months.
I should have ran track.
Could have been cruising with my friends.
I'll never forget when Bob and I came in. That was really Maurice was the only one in our class that came in early. And that was back, before he played and everything. He'd actually talk to me, and I'll never forget him calling me when I'm back in Oroville or wherever. And Jay, when are you getting down here, man? This sucks. He was on his own. He didn't have the extra guys to come in and kind of bounce off what in the heck is going on right now. It was just him in the weight room and all these upperclassmen guys saying, we haven't really seen young guys come in early like this. It's kind of strange. And this guy's a beast. And, so everybody's looking at him like, gosh, what do we have to do now? So, I'm sure it was kind of like he was on his own little island, for a while, because it wasn't something that really happened back then. But, it worked out for him well because he got to go through spring ball, and you saw what he did that next season. So, but I remember him calling me. I'll never forget it. Just like he didn't know what to do. He just needed somebody else that he could kind of hang out with that was his age, 18, an 18-year-old coming from high school to kind of understand what he was going through. So it's different for these kids. And, you have so many now, I think just because of how schooling in high school has went, a lot of these guys are saying, I don't want to stick around for this. I don't want to be at home all day long doing virtual learning or whatever it is. And let's just get out here. I thought about it when we were coming out because I could have, but, my parents and principal and everybody were kind of against it, just saying, just enjoy your time here and, you'll have all that in the future, just kind of be a kid and live your life, which, it's hard to argue with. We'll see how these young guys coming in now kind of join the team and, get going.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that because that's my dad gave me the same advice. Like, you'll never get your senior spring back again. Just enjoy it. And I look back, kind of a pseudo early enrollee, just didn't go to class. He was coming down for different reasons. Alex Boone, Justin. He would really come down for more of the evening activities.
He would come down for the recruiting, the recruiting fund. You guys are having somebody in? I'm coming. I did that too, though, so I guess I can't say much.
He came down. I think he would show up on Thursday night and leave like Sunday morning.
Not work out at all, but just
the workouts, I think.
Show up at people's houses, couch surfing the whole time, but you never get that time back. But you see some of these guys that come in early, and it pays dividends. You mentioned, Maurice. Some of these guys are able to come in and get it going. Garrett Wilson contributes as a freshman, but then other guys come in and like there's still like a 2 or 3 year plan to be able to get to the field. So it's going to be different for every guy, and everyone has their own unique circumstances. And some of it, they've had guys come in now that are injured. And it's like, it's great for those guys to come in if you're coming from an ACL or something significant, because no knock on a lot of, where some of these guys are from, smaller towns, wherever it is.
Trainers.
You've got a phenomenal recovery staff here from the trainers, the physical therapists. They're going to be locked in on you, and it's not, hey, go 3 times a week, we'll figure out what your impaired insurance is and all this. No. It's every day. Here's your goals. This is what we're going to do. We're going to measure, and Stu's going to be on them all the time. And so it's really beneficial, I think, probably for guys who are coming off injuries to get that high-level rehab.
And Mick's going to give them a workout that they can do, knowing what their injury is and what he wants to do, which you might not get. Not everybody has a strength coach in high school. And that's
extra
what it comes
6 months for an 18-year-old. I know you guys know how much an 18-year-old man's body can change in 6 months, and especially I know for me coming from high school, I'm eating Wendy's and Penn Station, and I'm like, this is my fuel.
You look like that when Schleich got a hold of you too.
We're flexing.
That's
be careful,
6
he's
months.
on it fast.
That's 6. Be careful. He's in ketosis.
Yeah, I know.
That's 6 months. It's massive, because these guys know what they're doing. Exactly what Bobby's saying. You got the best strength staff in the country. You got the best nutrition staff in the country. Best weight staff in the country. And you get 6 months to do nothing but focus on that. I can't remember the guys that came in early. I know Jeff Hireman was one of them, but I think we only had 3 or 4. And those guys definitely looked different than the rest of us. I think I don't know if they were just, built different from the start or not, but throughout those 3-4 years, they had a better base to build on than most of the guys that would come in late. And I would assume that these young guys now in high school are starting to see how important this is, especially if you're seeing it as a business. If your goal is to go to the NFL, every month, every year matters. And going into college early and getting those even film sessions, that is a massive head start. And when you see that year in and year out, I think that's what is accounting for this boom in guys showing up early.
And one other piece, because they talk about it as a business. One of the other things that you looked at, getting in early, and Justin, our roommate and good friend Doug Daddish, came in the summer, and he actually took a class. I signed up and then ended up dropping it. But you're able to get a little bit of that course load off of you and be able to start before your freshman year. You've got summer semester and then all on top of that winter. So that's why you see some of these guys who are able to graduate, in 3.5 years, and you don't feel just the burden of all of that on you in the fall because you're able to kind of spread that out across your off season.
Yeah, and you look at that. I mean, it's almost 30 guys over the last 2 years for Ohio State that have made that choice, and for people like Jack Sawyer or Travion Henderson that people are anticipating a lot from as a true freshman. It was like there was never any doubt. This is what you almost have to do at this point if you want to play and start that clock and try to get, whether that's on the field or whether that's getting to the NFL or whatever. These guys come in with these plans, and it's really shifted, and it's more important this year because last year they have 2 classes now that are trying to catch up a little bit, and we'll see what that means in spring practice because Kyle McCord, how much further behind Jay-Z is he really? Yeah. Behind C.J. Stroud and Jack Miller, who didn't even throw a pass last year.
Yeah, I mean, that was huge. And I remember, this time last year talking about all the receivers that were coming in and these young quarterbacks and who, how great it was going to be that they were going to get that spring practice. And then they end up just getting nothing, and it's just like they're off on their own until the season started, basically. So that's huge for those young guys. I mean, they got to see Justin Fields, who's, going to go down as one of the better quarterbacks that played at Ohio State. They got to see how he his process, right? How he approached practice, how he approached watching film. So that is going to be big just because, you're coming in and you think you watched a lot of film and you think you were doing the right stuff, as a high school kid, but it changes a little bit and it's a little more in depth. And, I think Justin showing those guys, I think the kid coming in is kind of behind the ball because they at least got to be around, a really good quarterback for a year. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to have foot up. Also, they've been here a while. They're more comfortable. But, being able to go through spring, 3 quarterbacks, I don't like it because you just don't have that many balls to go around, to get that number one guy the reps. But I'm sure Ryan will have a good, do a good job of evaluating, seeing who they want to get the most reps, and kind of fitting them in those positions. But, you're happy for these receivers and these young guys that they're hopefully, I guess, knock on wood, they're going to get some practice this spring.
Yeah. Which, assuming they get that, which Ohio State's still planning to have a full spring, they want to do more simulated games to try and get all the reps that everyone missed last year. Bob, is there somebody in this class or some position that you think is most pressing for Ohio State?
I think you obviously look to the defensive side of the ball, outside of the quarterback position, because everybody knows that needs to get taken care of when you're losing Justin Fields. But you lose 4 linebackers. Yeah. You lose Sean Wade out of a secondary who was pretty young. Cam Brown's going to be coming back into it, but you saw Latham Ransom out there. Do we see Court Williams play at all? In the secondary, I think that back 7 is going to be critical of those guys understanding the speed, getting their bodies physically ready to go, and so there's going to be opportunities for guys to play. And there's some good veteran guys who haven't started a lot. You talk about Dallas Gant, you Mitchell, like Taraja Mitchell, some guys who I think will step in there. Kayvon Pope at linebacker, but this back 7. They're going to be going against guys that are really good in practice. And the best thing is that, in the passing aspect of it, you'll get exposed. You'll know exactly what you need to be able to do, quick, fast, in a hurry. But I think you saw some of that inexperience kind of show itself later in the season where they're mixing and matching some guys, especially in the secondary, who maybe didn't play, they maybe didn't play free safety. They played nickel, but you know what? We're just going to throw Marcus Williamson back there because he's a guy who knows at least what to do, but maybe doesn't understand the idiosyncrasies of how to play the position when they move guys around just due to lack of reps. So that's going to be critical for the development of those guys, young guys, everyone back there, and they're going to be going against very talented wideouts who can expose them in a hurry.
And Michael, they've got to replace your guy Trey Sermon, so
they do. Our running back room. I like our running back room. Trey Sermon definitely separated himself when it came to that Master Teague competition. I mean, I'm still a big Master Teague fan. I think the young man tries hard. I think he runs hard. You're given what you're given, and I think Trey Sermon was given a little bit more. So, but the guy's coming back. I think Master Teague will be a great leader, a great guy to look to work ethic. I'd be interested to see what they end up doing with him. But we saw some running backs, some young running backs with Mayan Williams and Steele Chambers. I know he's fumbled and they didn't give him the ball again after that, but he runs hard. and he's loose, he's fluid. Mayan Williams, everybody, he's electric every time he touched the ball, and we've got 2 5-star All-Americans coming in. That running back room competition is going to be really, really exciting to watch for Buckeye fans, especially seeing how Trey kind of came into his own throughout the season. Imagine if we had 13, 14 games with Trey Sermon.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody mentioned it, but those first 4 games of a season, those are still it's you know, getting your feet under you, getting
coming off an injury,
off an injury,
new team, new offense,
new conference. Because you know, the Big Ten is a little different than some of these other conferences, and it's definitely different than high school. So it'll be fun to see these guys go out there and compete for a starting spot. I'm sure we'll see a running back battle for the first couple weeks until someone really establishes themselves. But I don't think that should be any worry amongst the Ohio State fan base when it comes to, are we going to field a stellar running back this year?
Well, that's what's interesting about that competition as well. Jay-Z said, you know, it's one football. That's one football for 3 quarterbacks and for 5 running backs who could be vying for that. You know, people are just going to have to make decisions. That's
Competition.
Well, then you throw all the wideouts on the outside, and you Olave. You got. I mean, like, what do you do? You pick your poison.
So, you know, we'll get to that. Obviously, there's still about a month to go before Ohio State starts those practices. 2 days until the early signing period. Check out what Berman, Spencer Holbrook have been talking about on Talking Stuff. There's really only 2 targets left, and one of those recruitments could go all the way until at the end of April or May to get some Terrell Pryor flashbacks. I'm sure that you guys are big fans of that, but his is not really an attention-seeking move. He wants to visit, and nobody can do that. So not a lot more that we can add to that those recruiting guys haven't. But this has changed so much since all 3 of you guys signed. Like, what can you even imagine what it would be like to go through this process now compared to what you guys did?
Well, it's expedited. And then last year, the fact, you know, a lot of these guys committed, you know, they didn't have visits. You know, I don't know how.
Wild, right?
You're committing, and sometimes you take visits during the season, which – what was the NCAA ruling? If you don't have fans, you can't have guys on campus. Dumbest thing in the world. I'm glad that they're really doing a great job there. Continuing.
No, they've handled this whole thing really well, Bob.
Go to a Clemson
like
game and sit in the stands, or an Oklahoma game, but no, you can't.
And so that was one. They're making decisions based, you know, without visits. Then you have the early commitment period. And so I committed, I think, a week or 2 before signing day. Justin committed much earlier in our class. And so it's nice, I think, to be able to do that. I like the fact that guys can take visits in the spring, and the fact that I don't know if you could commit to a school, especially one across the country, if you've never even been to the campus.
Pretty wild, right?
And so the spring visits, I think, are something that's really helped Ohio State. I know they like to get them in the stadium and a lot of things, but if you can get guys here in May and April when it's a little nicer sometimes, the weather's not as bad as January.
People are outside. People want to be out. Yeah,
it's a great representation of what this place can be, and so it's awesome how that's kind of evolved. And I'm just curious to see how they begin to lighten some of this stuff up, and if they allow some of these visits to happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be huge. I don't know what it would be like if back in when I was getting recruited. I committed early too. I committed my junior year. But I only took a couple visits. Once you get that Ohio State offer from Ohio, you kind of know where you're going. You take some visits for fun, but for the most part, you know, that's the best option. But to not be able to even go visit Ohio State, like, okay, maybe you're from Ohio and Ohio State gave you that offer and you're like, okay, I want to go. You get a lot out of going to those visits. You get camaraderie with your teammates. You get to meet some of these guys that you're going to be spending a lot of time with. You get to meet coaches. You get to get a feel for the university. You get to have some fun. So it really sucks for these guys who are going into college now who don't get that opportunity to see those things. And I know a lot of guys who knew where they were going and then they just took visits, you know, in California or in Florida just because, you know, it's almost like a reward.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You get this rare opportunity. You take advantage of your opportunity. And that's not what these guys are dealing with. So this whole year just feels so much more like a business than it has in the past. You got to make so many more hard decisions that aren't nearly as fun, right? Like for all of us, I'm sure it was really exciting to sign to Ohio State and to go through that recruiting process and all those things. But these guys, it's really like you got to sit down with a book and start going through pros and cons because you don't have the opportunity to feel it out or anything like that. And that's just it's a little bit more boring, but I mean.
It comes back to the business, you know, what you just said, it's more of a business now. And I almost feel like it, not even in this year, the last few years kind of is, where these guys look at Ohio State and say, they put how many DBs, you know, in the top 10 year after year after year? I don't even care what the campus is like. I'm going there to play football because I want to be a top 10 pick, right? I mean, I think you see these kids just seeing, the Alabamas, the Ohio States saying they're putting people in the NFL. That's where I want to be. I think I'm that good. Who cares what, this campus looks like? I'm sure it's nice. They've gotten guys there for year after year after year. They've been really good. So I'm sure a lot of kids are just saying, I want to go be coached and be in that culture, be in that system to better myself and better my chances of going to the league.
Seems like it's made it pretty easy for Ohio State to recruit and for recruits to pick them. And signing day on Wednesday, it's going to be probably a pretty quiet one, so we won't have to worry about that much. But we're going to take a quick break, get into some more Ohio State talk. Brought to you by Roosters on Lettermen Live after this.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart. And we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back to Lettermen Live. Wrapping up here on a snowy Monday. Mike is digging into that. We got buffalo chicken pizza this week.
It's not his norm.
It's
not your norm.
I sneak a piece every now and then. I know you like to take it home.
That is my favorite. But you had something really going there with you had pepperoni.
Pepperoni, bacon.
Bacon. I mean, that one.
That was legit.
It was a little bougie.
Yeah, and then you moved down, so I didn't even have to look at it anymore. Now this is no temptation whatsoever.
There's no problem.
Everybody
with that.
knows I'm not going to be eating that salad, and Bob's not either, so not a problem. Tuesday, by the way, is $2 mac and cheese bites this week. So Schlegs will probably be taking that.
I'm going to box those and send them down.
Send them down.
He's going to hop on the private jet. He's been on with Urban from Shad Khan, going back and forth from Jacksonville. He'll be here, I'm sure, to get some mac and cheese bites on Tuesday. Yeah. He's got some familiarity with some of these Buckeyes who were at the Senior Bowl last week, Bob, and this process, you guys have all been through it to get to the next level. It starts immediately after that last game for them. There's no time. Michael, you win a national championship, you start training the next day to get drafted. I mean, Jonathan Cooper played well. Baron Browning played well. Tough Borland had a tough Borland week of practices.
I mean, they were starters, right? All three of them?
Which means that it's up and down. It depends on what you ask him to do, how well he can do it. Trey Sermon was down there, even though he was hurt and couldn't play in the game. So it's a weird process. There wasn't a Shrine Bowl or any of that. Don't know what the combine's going to look like, but at least for somebody like Jonathan Cooper or Baron Browning, it seemed like they made the most of that week.
So the combine, it's not happening. It's going to be virtual. They're going to come to the schools. There'll be more on the pro days this year, but thankfully at Ohio State, you're going to get all 32 teams, I would imagine, there, and they're going to send representatives. When you have Justin Fields and guys like that, so they're going to be able to take a look at everybody. But I think it was important for those guys, if you feel like maybe there's things that you can do that weren't shown, especially if you're like a guy like Baron Browning, who's kind of spot played a little bit throughout his career. Package was last year. This year was more of a full-time starter, but you only got so many games. And so his ability to get more film out there and show them, hey, I can pass rush, I can cover, I can do this, I can do that. And I think it was huge because you can do some of that stuff at the combine, but the act of playing football is very, very important if you're a front seven or box player. And then also the fact that you're not going to have your normal pro day either. It's going to be weird. There's no combine. And so if you're a guy who's a talented athlete, I think is very skilled and just didn't have as much film, this was a critical piece for those guys to be able to go. And you could put Justin Hilliard in that category as well, who has had a lot of things, injuries for reasons he hasn't played. And then you get down there and you show that maybe you're a little better and you answer some questions that people had about you.
I feel like Baron Browning's just going through the whole process that he just went through at Ohio State when he gets there. It's like, well, should he be an outside pass rusher, a middle linebacker, outside linebacker, inside linebacker? NFL teams prize that versatility, which is maybe good for him, but it also makes it hard to figure out maybe where he's going to be.
They can move you around and figure out what you do well. And so, okay, this guy does this really well. Well, why were they having him do that before? We'll just have him do this. And so that's kind of that mindset. And he's a great rusher off the edge. It's what he did in high school. It's what made him a 5-star guy. And you try to put him in the middle, and it's like, oh, that's great. It should work, but it doesn't always. And so let's go back to asking what he did really well before. And that I think that has benefited him immensely.
To a point of Baron Browning, I saw a lot of guys who they make their whole career off of special teams, and they need that body type that is Baron. Somewhere between 6 foot, 6'2", 240 pounds to 255. And so you say, oh, will he be an inside linebacker, pass rusher, middle linebacker? Doesn't matter. He's there to play special teams. And they'll put him where he needs to be to make him useful enough to justify putting him on 4 core special teams. But it's guys like that who get the most out of a Senior Bowl. Same with Tough. It's guys like that who get the most out of a Senior Bowl because they want to see how you move. They want to see how you compete. They want to see, okay, if we bring this guy, everybody knows that these guys probably aren't going to be first-round picks. You don't need to be a first-round pick to be successful in the NFL. And these coaches want to see, like I said, how you move, how you compete, and then, okay, will you fit our scheme? Can I teach you? So if they have conversations with these guys at the Senior Bowl, and if you're dumb as rocks, that's a big no. Even if you're athletic, unless you're going to be a first-round pick, they need to know that if I tell you or if I bring you in and give you this playbook, you are going to know this playbook by tomorrow. And that is how these young guys who might not be first or second round picks, but that's how they end up looking up, and it's an 8-year NFL career because they're intelligent people, they're hard workers, and all of these guys are very in shape. They're fit. It's not they're bad body guys going into the NFL. So that opportunity to put themselves in front of these coaches and compete in real football, especially coming off a year that they didn't have as many games, I think is huge for all of them.
Well, and you go back and look at Ohio State, where a lot of the starters, a lot of those guys who we're talking about were playing special teams, doing that, as a starter at Ohio State. So the NFL looks at that. Hey, they've done it. We have film of them doing this. We get to see them in person, just see, how athletic we think they are, that sort of thing. But we know they're going to give all-out effort. They're going to make tackles. They're going to do what they need to do, be in their lanes on special teams, which, as you talk about, you can be in the league for a long time if you're a guy that can bounce around, they can count on you to do what you're supposed to do. And then if they need you in a pinch to go play linebacker or go play something, you can. So I think that's big.
My best example is Nate Eboner. I mean, he hasn't been a starting safety in the NFL since he's got there. I think he's looking at, year 9 with 3 Super Bowl rings?
Yeah.
And he's the leader on that team. He's a captain year in and year out. There are a lot of different avenues to be successful in the NFL. And, everybody wants to be a first or second round pick. But these guys who aren't getting as much media, aren't getting as much press, but they have those intangibles. And obviously they take care of their bodies and all that kind of stuff. But those intangibles are the things that'll get you to stick around, even if you're bouncing around from team to team. I mean, if you've just been cut by 4 teams, you're looking at year 5, these teams that are bringing you in, they need to know that you can learn the playbook. They need to know that you're going to give effort every single day in practice. And they need to know that if they throw you in there on Sundays, the lights aren't going to be too bright. And I think all these guys that went to the Senior Bowl have those qualities.
Trying to remember, what did you 3 do the day after your last game and you're trying to make a career out of it? What was the process like? I know some of these guys we're going to do Florida, we're going to go to Dallas, Phoenix, L.A., Malibu. Chase Young was obviously living a different life than everybody else the day he declared, but
stay out of Malibu, Lebowski, number 1. So let's talk about that. I was rehabbing my ankle, so it was get back to Columbus as quickly as I could and continue to rehab my ankle to be able to go, work out at the combine. But some people traveled around, went to other places. That was all well and good. And everybody's going to be different. I wanted to finish up school. I had some stuff to get done, and class-wise, so we stayed here. And AJ Schleiks and I trained with our guy Butch Reynolds, and it was a unique thing. We went some places for a couple weekends here and there, but I wanted to make sure I was finishing up my degree, finishing up class, and then also finding a way to train and trained in a very competitive environment with them. And it worked out really well, I think, for us. And we got to have the same routine, the same continuity, and with people that knew us, and I could still go and get rehabbed and do the same thing that I needed to do after workout. So it was a slam time, and then you're going around and doing appearances and signing autographs and a lot of stuff, and it was probably the most exhausting period of my life that I look back on. Probably the 6 to 8 weeks, and mine was even a little longer because I didn't really work out at the combine. It was working out at senior day, so I had to pro day, so I had to go and wait another 3 or 4 weeks to get that done, and I needed it for my ankle, but it was just every day, wake up, work out, go to rehab, go to class, come back. If we had appearances, stuff that night, study, talk to whoever I needed to get done. And it was just spinning like that every single day. So, I didn't drink for 4 months during that time. And that was, that was something. It was a dedicated portion of my life. I want to make sure I was locked in. And thankfully, I don't know if I would have been able to physically handle it if I did.
4 sober months, Bob. That's
I know, right?
That's a lot to ask.
Oh, it was a long, listen, draft day was awesome, though. So I guess even draft day, but then even the night after
Pro day?
Pro day was great. You know, the Applebee's right down the street, hopped over there. I mean, you know, got slid in there because it took forever because they just let the coaches go as long as they wanted. Our position drills were like an hour apiece. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. Yeah. Clock would buzz. Just let them keep going. No one would stop us. And so we were exhausted. And then, boom, got out of there. I believe the happy hour started like 4 o'clock. So just dove right in.
Boom.
I mean, mine was pretty different. I was coming off an injury too. I was a mess after the national championship, so I had an assortment of like groin injuries and stuff like that to deal with. But my first things that I was aiming at was get an agent and get a financial advisor, and then I went out to Phoenix to train at Exos. I do think it would have helped me to stay in Columbus to do my rehab. You know, you go to a whole new training facility and a whole new training staff. They don't really know what your injuries
don't know
have
you
been.
or
they don't
what
know
you.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew a lot of guys who stayed back at in Columbus and trained here, and it worked out really well for them. But that 3-4 months, I mean, that's a grind. You think, okay, finally done with my senior season or junior season, whatever it is, I can, you know, it'll be a little bit easier. Or I won't have as many responsibilities. Like, no, because now you're thrown into the shark pit. Like, this is with the big boys, and so these guys. People start getting in your ear and you start realizing how important it is and how much work you need to put in to prepare for the combine or the Senior Bowl or the Pro Day or all the interviews and all this kind of stuff, and it just doesn't stop. That's why they say your rookie year is the longest season, is because it doesn't start in September. Your rookie year starts as soon as your last college game is done, and that is a long time.
Yeah, I've been, you know, I've done some stories, whether that's, you know, going through the people preparing for the combine or being at the combine or draft diaries for the pro day and all this stuff that you've talked about. You know, Bob's talking about not drinking, working out multiple times a day, rehab 24 hours a day, because you're cramming this all into 3 months basically. And then I've heard it over and over. Well, it's the biggest job interview of your life, and it is. It's potentially life-changing money. So when you're making sacrifices to do it for 3 months and working out twice a day and, you know, eating, you know, just whatever, chicken and eggs. Like,
that was so much grilled chicken.
so much.
And that's
2 gallons of water.
We had a Texas Roadhouse we had to go to, so I had to not eat the rolls with the butter, the honey butter. It was like the worst thing in the world. They're there, and it's like, give me grilled chicken and rice. This sucks.
They couldn't just get you to go.
Couldn't do it. It was rough.
You know, we all sit here and talk about that, and you say it's the biggest job interview of your life, and it's something that you love to do. And frankly, I mean, you think about, you know, when guys start playing football, start playing sports, I mean, you're 21, 22, maybe 20, 23. Schleicher's was like 26. But you've got like 15 years of your life wrapped up into that at a minimum.
Yeah.
And so I always laugh, like, some of these guys go and look like trash at the combine. I'm like, and that's why coaches get worried. I'm like, it's not that you have to be great, and I'm going to judge you on this, but if you can't like sacrifice some things and get it together for 3 months,
it's like the guy who would get the positive test.
Yeah.
Like you can't not smoke for.
They call it an IQ test.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
It's like, dude, you know everything that's going to come. You're telling me that you can't, you know, not smoke dope and eat right and like try to do things for just like
be in shape
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it. And so it becomes like a matter of how intelligent are you, one, and then literally, do you care about anything?
Yeah.
Except for just like feeding your selfish beast. And so, there you go.
As hard as that 3 to 4 months is, it for me was some of the greatest months because that was my first time going out to Phoenix in the winter, and that, you know, that's life changing. You go out there.
What?
Yeah, well, it's beautiful outside.
Look outside the Lettermen
Don't get me wrong, I love Columbus. When you hit that highway and the sun's hitting you and there are mountains all around you,
wow.
that was
it's
a good
February
time.
and you're just
February.
like, this is amazing.
Oh, I've never experienced that. So it was a freeing time. It was a cool time. But yeah, it is all business. You know, we would work out twice a day, and if you're injured, I know Bob had to probably do it, but if you're injured, you're getting treatment when you're not working out. Like that's once again, you're preparing for the biggest job interview of your life. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You can't be, you know, kind of piss it away. You can't be pissing that away. No kids watching, but
I think it's okay.
That's not a big one. But yeah, you can't just be being flippant about it. You have to really put yourself to it. You got to be grinding. You got to be working. But it's a rare opportunity where you can do that somewhere else, and you can do that. You can really focus on it. Like college was a step up from high school, how much time you could put into your body and into your craft. And then as soon as you're done with college, the whole day can be applied to your craft if you want, if you have that kind of discipline. And like Bob said, that's kind of what these coaches are trying to see is what are you willing to sacrifice when nobody else is holding your hand. and it's a tough time for a lot of guys, but it's just a time. It's a time to grow up.
Yeah.
No honey butter grilled chicken. Here?
No, I couldn't. Gosh. I got to fly to Hawaii
That's
right after
strength,
my
though.
last game. No, that was nice because we had the hula bowl. Yeah,
Okay.
so there was 5 or 6 of us that got to go out there. So we jumped on a flight from that debacle against Florida and flew out to Hawaii. Got some sunshine, and then I went to Nashville, worked out, and me and Brandon Mitchell had the same agent. We went down to D1 in Nashville. That was before the D1 was up here in Columbus, right, Bob? I think, yeah. A long time ago, but
What was the hula bowl experience like, Jay-Z?
hula bowl was great. Ohio State, we always talk about, just the sheer number of fans and this and that. I mean, the alumni club out there, day one. We're here. You got a driver. You got, I had a guy, took me to North Shore. I mean, we went, we had some time. They allowed, the bowl did, to have some time to go see the place. And, the alumni club just was out there telling us all the stories about how early they get up to watch the games and all that. But, it was a good time. Met a lot of cool dudes, practice it. It was the hula bowl. It's probably the 3rd or 4th one down the rung, or down the ring. But we had a good time. It was a good time with 5 or 6 of us that were there. We got to hang out a lot, and had a big Ohio State feeling towards the team.
That's probably a blast.
Yeah,
It was all right.
3rd or 4th down the ring.
Mike looked a little jealous
Well,
right there.
yeah. I mean,
talking about you get to
want
play
to be at
football
the
and-
Senior Bowl. I mean, that's
Definitely.
just is what it is. But yeah, when I got that call, I'm like, heck yeah,
Yeah.
took the whole fam. Hey, we're going to Hawaii. Let's go.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of people that are angling to start giving you some time and some money as soon as you get out of here. Agents and all that deal. It's got to be head spinning when you guys get done and instantly shift to that how quickly difficult it is. But you guys all pulled it off pretty well. And like Jonathan Cooper right now, he's getting some Lettermen Row Buckeye Q money. So as soon as you're out,
There you go.
here we
Boom.
go.
Yeah.
That's what's
Take
up.
some
Bring him
money
in.
and do some work. All right,
Yeah.
let's do it. Maybe he'll be here to join us and eat some wings, eat some mac and cheese bites, not eat a salad like Bob. Next week as we come back and keep talking about Ohio State football all year round. Thanks to Roosters for having us in for Lettermen Live. That's Justin Zwick, Michael Bennett, and Bobby Carpenter. I am just Austin Ward. We'll see you next week.